was a test of our emergency broadcasting system, but never fear. Night Court is here, and we are back in session. Oh, that's what we was waiting on. We was waiting on Lady Tia. Boom. That's why we had to start over. There you go. So I want to say welcome back to the live stream. In case you was here for the first part, we had a little bit of technical difficulty, but that's neither here or there. We're back. Welcome back, and thank you for your patience. Please remember, go ahead and like this video as well. Welcome back, Living. Welcome back, Winter. And hello, welcome to the Little Jewelry Box for the night, Lady Tia. Well, bet you'll be. No, don't go catch the first night was just the opening statements, and you can go catch that after this replay. So we'll give folks a chance to get back here, and I'll go ahead and give my recap. I have really got to work on this recap. So we started a new trial. Who Shot the Sheriff is our first flashback legendary trial from 2002. This is the state of Georgia versus Sidney Dorsey, who was the first Black sheriff of Dekalb County, to my left. Sidney Dorsey took office behind Sidney Dorsey, when he was elected sheriff, he stepped right into the shoes of his predecessors who had a long history of corruption. That's going to make up one part of this trial. They are trying him for any number, a long laundry list of corruption in his office as sheriff of Dekalb County. It is in my description box, bailiff. You ain't checked. The most important part of this trial, the most heinous charges, is murder for hire. When Sheriff Dorsey found himself booted out of office and he had gotten replaced by new sheriff-elect Derwin Brown, he went about it making his business to hire some henchmen to assassinate his opponent, his what's the word, successor, okay, his competition. And so he hired Patrick Cuffey, who in turn hired 3 more gentlemen, or we can call it that, to assassinate the new sheriff. And that's what we're in trial. And this trial has a lot of moving parts, a lot of key players. And the first witness that we're going to be taking a stand for the prosecution, welcome back, M. Renee, is going to be the lady to our left, to my right, Miss Shirley McMichael. Shirley McMichael is the first Black bondswoman of Dekalb County in Georgia. Welcome back, Sean. Now, her significance in this trial, as the first witness here, is going to be on the corruption side of things. She had nothing to do with the assassination of Derwin Brown, the new sheriff, but she's here to testify. She alleges that Senator. Welcome back, Kathy. We're going to just get started, okay? But she alleges that the sheriff not only extorted her for sexual favors, also money, all under the rules of her being able to keep and run her successful bonding company, Speedy Bonds. Okay, so she is the first witness to hit the stand. This is a best of trial. Because this trial is from 2002, I had looked through the first witnesses, but they were playing recordings, which you really could not hear at all. This is the first best of witness, and she pretty much sums up the corruption in a nutshell. Okay, so without further ado, I decided not to play my recording because it was not in sync. We're going to play it like we did last night, and I just have to skip the commercials. I'm glad you guys are back. Please hit the like. If you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing if you're not already done so. All right, let me flash my fair use disclaimer real quickly. Boom. All right, so we are doing this content under the fair use disclaimer that allows for us to do this for critique, commentary, education, news reporting, and all of that good stuff. All right. Now that the housekeeping is out of the way, let most folks get here. We got 9 of us here. We had 12, so we can get started. All right. Boom. Shirley McMonald. I'm just not going to talk. I need some coffee.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in court is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, state your name for the court.
Shirley D.
YouTube won't let me be great tonight.
McMichael.
All right, ma'am. Speaking to the microphone so everybody can hear you, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Michael, say your name again, please, with the jury.
Shirley D. McMichael.
Ms. Michael, where do you live?
Alpharetta, Georgia.
I'm sorry.
Alpharetta, Georgia.
Okay. What county is that in?
Fulton County.
Where did you grow up, please?
I grew up in Warren, Ohio.
And did you at some time move to Atlanta?
Yes.
And when was that?
1991.
And prior to 1997, how were you employed?
I was a general manager at Uptown Comedy.
And what is that, please?
It is a place of comedy.
Is it, we'll call it Comedy Club?
Yes.
And where was that located?
It's located in Buckhead, Atlanta.
Do you have a family?
Yes.
And are you currently married?
No, I'm not.
Have you been married?
Yes.
Do you have any children?
Yes, I do.
And how old are they and what's their gender, please?
I have 2 girls and 1 son, and my daughters are now, my oldest daughter is 14, and my youngest daughter, she just turned 13, and my son is 23.
And did those children grow up in the home with you?
Yes, they did.
And your 2 daughters, do they currently live with you at this time?
Yes, they do.
Ms. McMichael, in 1997, did you open up a business in Dekalb County?
I did.
And what type of business was that?
It was a bail bonding company.
Prior to 1997, had you applied for a bail bonding business in Dekalb County?
I did.
And under what sheriff was that?
Bob Morse.
Were you ever interviewed or talked with about that application?
I was never interviewed. I don't believe I wasn't interviewed by the sheriff himself, but they did review my application, and they told me that they would not be making a decision, and that the new incoming sheriff would make the decision.
Okay, so you applied then shortly before January 1, 1997?
Correct.
After January 1, 1997, who was sheriff of DeKalb County at that time?
Sheriff Dorsey, Sidney Dorsey.
And did you have an interview regarding the opening up of a bail bonding business in DeKalb County?
Yes.
Now, prior to that interview, had you had any experience working in a bail bonding company?
Yes, I did.
And please tell Her Honor and the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what your experience was.
I initially was a bounty hunter, and I started off originally as a bounty hunter in a bonding company in Atlanta. And then I went from bounty hunting to writing bonds.
Right. Please tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what a bounty hunter does.
A bounty hunter actually goes out and catches people who doesn't show up for court.
So you yourself would actually go look for these people?
Correct.
And when you say write bonds, what do you mean by that, please, ma'am?
Write bonds meaning that I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. When a person goes to jail, we'll go and actually bail the person out of jail. That's what I mean when I say write bonds.
And after January 1, 1997, did you have an interview to open up such a business, a bail bonding business in DeKalb County, Georgia?
I did.
Who contacted you about that interview?
Captain Goodrow.
And did you interview with anyone regarding the bail bonding business?
Captain Goodrow, yes.
Okay. Did you interview with anyone else?
I interviewed finally with the sheriff.
So your first interview was with a captain, right?
Correct.
Then after that interview, did you have a subsequent interview?
Yes.
And who was that with?
That was with Sheriff Dorsey.
Okay. Was anyone else present during that interview? If you recall.
I can't recall.
And what was discussed during that interview, if you can recall, please, ma'am?
The sheriff asked me where would I be getting the finances from, and had I had any prior experience, and that I needed to be a resident of the county. He was just telling me some of the requirements, some of the things that he required.
Were you a resident of DeKalb County at that time?
No,
Did you subsequently move into DeKalb County?
correct.
Was that the only interview you had with him, or did you have another one before you opened up the business?
Yes, I had another one before I opened.
And let's go back to that first interview. Ms. Michael, do you have any recollection of what you were wearing at that time?
Yes, I do. I had on a pantsuit.
Okay. The next interview, could you please tell us about that one now?
That was the final interview where he tells you whether you've been approved or not approved, or whether you met all the qualifications. What they do is after the first interview, after you put your application in for the bonding company, they do a background investigation on you, see what kind of person you are, check out your finances, just a thorough investigation, and then they kind of like interview you again and again just to see what kind of person you are. And then your final interview and the final determination is up to the sheriff, and then the sheriff comes in and says, yay, you got accepted, or no, you don't get accepted.
Well, let's first talk about the finances. What type of finances must you have before you can open up a bail bonding business in DeKalb County?
Okay, the requirements at the time were you had to have $50,000 cash and $100,000 in property, and or you could have $150,000 cash. But the net total had to be $150,000 in assets and property.
And is that property, the cash, or property put up as collateral?
It's property put up as collateral, the $100,000.
And how did you meet those requirements, if you recall?
I took a loan for the $50,000, and the $100,000 property was belonged to a friend of mine, Major Everett.
So were you able to meet the minimum requirements to open up such a business in DeKalb County?
Yes.
And we're now at the second interview, or the last interview. Was anyone else present during that interview?
At that particular interview, it was just the sheriff and I.
And what did he tell you regarding opening up the business?
He had told me that they had checked out my background and that I had been approved.
Okay. Did he tell you anything else about the business?
No,
All right. At that time, were you familiar with the other bonding companies in DeKalb County?
no,
When you started the business, did you meet the other bonds persons in DeKalb County?
no,
You never met them at all?
no. I only knew one other person that was in DeKalb County, and that was Pat Pratt from CNF.
After you started your business, did you have occasion to meet the other bonding company owners?
Oh, yeah, I met all of them.
Were you the first African-American female to own a bonding company in DeKalb County?
Yes, I was the only female and the only African, the only black company in DeKalb County at the time.
Do you recall when you started business in DeKalb County, Ms. McMichael?
Yes, it was 1997.
Do you recall the date by any chance?
Yes, I do. February the 15th, I think it was Valentine's Day, or 14th.
And that's when you opened business.
Yes.
How many employees did you have when you started the business, ma'am?
It was just myself, and I had asked Major to help me because at the time he wanted to watch his property, you see, to make sure that it was the business was going to do good. So he had asked, so it was just me and him.
Ms. McMichael, is Major a first name or a title?
Major is the first name.
And what was this gentleman's last name, please?
Everett.
So the two of you began the business together.
Correct.
And what was your daily routine like, if you could recall, please?
Well, we really wanted it to be a success, so we stayed there all day and all night. I didn't have any office furniture or anything. I just operated with a telephone in my office, just until I had accumulated enough bonds and finances enough so I could buy like my desk, typewriter, stuff like that.
Hey, Ms. McMichael, when you say you just had a phone, did you have on, and then how you, as the owner of the company, is paid?
Okay. When someone gets locked up, what they do initially, they'll call the bonding company, not them themselves. Well, they can, but usually it would be a family member. And then we would tell them the requirements that they need: a Georgia driver's license, a utility bill, and a pay stub. And they would come in and come into our office, fill out the paperwork. And at the time, the percentages changed to, at the time, it was 10% of a bond, and in 99, they changed it to 12%. And that was if the bond fee was under $10,000, then you would get a certain percentage. To this day, it is 12%. And what they would do is that they would pay us directly, and then the $50,000 in the property that we used as collateral in the very beginning is what they used, to let you write on. So you could write up to like 1.5 or something like that $1 million a year, as long as you remain, as long as you kept the $50,000 and the $100,000 property, the sheriff's department. So then when they came to pay us, then that was money that we get to keep.
All right. They would pay you a percentage of the total bond that was set by the court.
Correct.
Okay. For example, take an easy figure, $10,000 bond, they would have to pay you $1,000 until 1999, then they would have to pay $1,200. Is that right?
Correct.
And that $1,000, $1,200, that is the profit to the bonding company.
Correct. But there are jail assessment fees added on to that.
Okay, let's just keep that up. What happens if the person that you have, as you say, wrote the bond for doesn't show up for court?
Then we would get a letter in the mail from, I'll just say a letter. We would get a letter in the mail from the courts to say that you have 120 days to catch this person. And if you didn't catch the person within 120 days, then you'd have to pay the money. So it's a high-risk business. You'd actually have to pay whatever the bond was. So if I wrote a bond, for example, for $5,000, and the person didn't show up for court, and I didn't catch him within 120 days, then I'd have to pay the court $5,000 for that person.
And similarly, if you had a high bond, say for $100,000, your company could have to pay the $100,000. Is that correct?
Correct.
It just depends on how much bond the court had set for that particular defendant.
Correct.
When persons who were arrested or family members went to the jail, how many bonding companies were there when you opened your business on February 14th, 1997? Do you recall?
I was the fourth bonding company. There was only 3 bonding companies.
How would individuals who had never posted bail before come to the jail? How would they know which bonding company to choose from?
Well, they had a list upon the wall of all the bonding companies' names. And so, when they come outside, come into the jail, they look up on the wall and they would rotate those names like once a week. Like if you're the first one this week, then next week you'd be the middle one. Then the following week you'd be the third.
So the signs could actually move up and down.
Right.
Was there a system to your knowledge, that the jail administration could monitor how much bonds you had written, say, in a particular day? How much money in bonds?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Probably not worded very well. Was there a way that the jail administration was ever overseeing the bonding companies? Could they monitor how many bonds you had written that day? Was there a system of knowing that Speedy Bonding Company had written X number of bonds for X amount?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The system was called Jail Track. They actually, because when you write a bond, the deputy or the sheriff has to sign that bond when the person comes out, so they know exactly how many bonds you wrote, who you wrote it for, the dollar amount, they know everything.
Ms. McMichael, do you know approximately how much in gross income Speedy Bonding Company made in 1997?
I would say from probably 600,000 to 700,000.
Okay. And of that amount, how much was your own gross income?
Probably about 100 to 150.
115 or 150?
Probably about 150.
150,000?
I'm not really for sure.
Okay. Let's go back to your interview with the sheriff. Who decides who gets a bonding company in Dekalb County?
Sheriff Dorsey.
Is there a board that decides or makes a recommendation?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Are there a board of individuals that decides or makes a recommendation?
No, the final decision is the sheriff's.
Okay. And were you alone with the sheriff when he approved your bonding company?
Correct.
Were you alone on both those interviews?
I believe on the first interview, I believe I was alone too.
Okay. Again, on that second interview, when you were awarded the business, do you have any recollection of what you were wearing at that time?
I don't recall exactly what I was wearing on the second interview, but I believe it was probably a pair of jeans
Okay.
and a shirt, t-shirt.
On
I mean,
February-
there was no need for me to dress up.
Okay.
I wasn't it wasn't a regular. Mm-hmm.
Prior
Yes, please.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Prior to that first and second interview with defendant Dorsey, had you ever met him previously?
No.
Okay. After the second interview and you opened the business, was there any reason for you as the owner of a bonding company to having daily or weekly contact with the sheriff himself?
None.
As a bail bonds woman, who were you usually in contact with in the sheriff's department?
Well, all of the bonding companies were supposed to report to Captain Goodrow.
Okay.
He was in charge of bonding.
And so if there was any issue involving your company or any issues you had with the sheriff's department, where would you go to?
Captain Goodrow.
After you opened the business, did you have any contact or any phone call from Sheriff Dorsey?
Yes.
Please, do you recall where you were?
It was approximately about 6 months after I had opened my bail bonding company. I had gotten a phone call. I was in the office.
Okay, let me interrupt you if I might, please. During that time, from February 14th, 1997, until that phone call, had you had any contact with Defendant Dorsey, either by phone or in person?
No,
Would there have been any reason for you to have?
no.
Okay, I interrupt you, please go ahead and proceed.
I was in my office and I got a phone call, and it was from the sheriff's department, and they were saying that Sheriff Dorsey had requested to see me. And of course, I was scared. I didn't know. I was like, because usually if the sheriff requests to see you, you're in trouble or you think something's going on. And so I did not know what exactly he wanted to see me for. And I believe they had like the deputy, it wasn't the sheriff himself. I spoke initially with a deputy, and the deputy had transferred me to the sheriff's. And then the sheriff had got on the phone, and he had stated that he wanted to see me.
Did he tell you where he wanted to see you?
Yeah, I had asked him, did he want me to come to the office, or what was it about? And he said that he would contact me and let me know not to come to the sheriff's office where he was, that he would contact me and tell me where to go.
Right. Was that supposed to happen immediately or someday in the future?
No, that was later on that day.
Later on that day. Mr. Michael, do you have a recollection of whether or not that was a business day?
That was a business day.
Do you recall what day of the week it was?
I don't recall what day it was, but it was a business day.
Okay. And it was approximately 6 months after you started work.
Yes.
What happened then?
Then I had told my friend, Major Everett, that the sheriff wanted to meet me. And he was asking me what was it about. He actually asked me, was like, you know, did I do anything wrong? Or I was like, no. And so the sheriff had told me where to meet him at. And so I had asked him to follow me
Where were you told to meet?
at I believe it was Popeyes or some kind of chicken place. I'm not really for sure the exact name. It could have been Popeyes Chicken or Church's Chicken. That's what it was. It was Church's Chicken. And so my friend, he followed me to the Church's Chicken. And when I got to the Church's Chicken, the sheriff was there in the car, and then another guy came, and then I guess they kind of like switched cars, and then the sheriff had told me to get in the car with him.
Okay, let's start. Do you know what kind of car the sheriff was in when you first got to the chicken place?
Yeah, it was a Crown Victorian.
And then another man came in another car, and they swapped cars?
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what kind of car the second car was?
No, it was kind of like a police car, like the Ford kind of car.
And you got in that car?
Yes.
Was there anything about it that made you believe it was a police car? Was there a radio in it? Were there blue lights or anything like that?
Yeah, there was a radio in it.
When I mean radio, I'm talking about police radio.
Oh.
Not the radio you listen to.
She's
music.
not the brightest.
You know, I don't know because I was so nervous that day.
But you got in the car.
Mm-hmm.
What happened next, please?
And he had looked over at me and asked me if I was nervous. And And I can't remember my state of mind because I was indeed nervous. And we kept driving down the road, and I was asking him, like, where were we going? Because I didn't know where we were going. Actually, I was supposed to be home because my daughters, I'm a single parent, and my daughters was going to be getting home. And so we drove and we went to this deserted house, and we pulled up.
I'm sorry, what kind of house, please, ma'am?
It was like a deserted house. It was like, it had all these bushes and like the fence around it, like an old creaky fence, and the weeds was real high. And we went there and we pulled in front of the house, and I don't want to say his exact words because I don't recall his exact words, but to sum it up, I got out of the car. He was saying to get out of the car. And there was, I don't even remember if there was any electric. I don't think there was any electric in that house. But I know that there was like rats in that house. There was a big rat in that house because I was like, oh, because when you pushed the fence, it creaked. It was like, eek. And when you had to get into the door, it was, everything was just like old. And then I was like, wow, where are we going?
Let me ask you this, was the door unlocked, or did Defendant Dorsey use a key to get inside?
Yeah, he had used a key. And I remember him saying that his aunt had lived at the house, that she had died, and that's why I was really scared of the house. He had said that his aunt had lived at the house and that she had died and had gave him the house. And we went into the house, and I remember there wasn't even any water in the house. That's how.
House had no utilities, is that right?
That's how vacant the house was.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the house had no utilities?
Nothing.
What time of day or night was this? Do you remember?
Well,
Was it dark or light outside?
it was about 5. Then it had turned to like 6, like it was creaking into dawn, because by the time we had gotten to the place, it was definitely dawn. It was dark.
Okay, you're saying dawn.
Like when the
Sun goes
street
down.
lights, yeah, the sun goes down.
Okay. Sun's going down, not coming up.
Yeah.
Okay, you may proceed.
And then we got into the house, and then he just kind of like, started getting all over me, and my heart was really fluttering. Because I didn't never think that he would do that to me.
Did he say anything to you, Ms. McMichael?
He had said, I think I was asking him some stuff, and I don't even recall his words, or something like, like the paint a fiddler, or
I'm sorry, please.
I'm sorry.
Ms. McMichael, I'm sorry, but it's hard for us to hear in this big courtroom. What did you just say, please?
He was saying that, like, in other words, that He didn't just give me the bonding company. That there was a price to pay.
Okay. And then what happened, please? Ma'am?
Then he just started, having sexual intercourse to me.
Where were you in the house when this happened?
Initially, he started he had initially it started in the living room, and then he had
When you say started in the living room, were you sitting down, standing up on the floor, or?
I think I was standing up. He just started slapping me.
Okay. And then what happened?
And then he did it to me.
And what did he do to you?
He violated me as a female. That was one that he did. And as a human being, secondly. And
Okay. Did he have sexual intercourse with you?
yes,
Where were you at that time? Do you recall?
I think I was standing up in the living room.
Standing up in the living room. Okay. Were you clothed or unclothed?
If I recall right, I think I had on a shirt, and he kind of just popped my shirt and just started, kissing me down my chest and stuff like that.
Okay. Were you wearing a pantsuit, jeans, shirt and blouse, or shirt and skirt? Do you recall?
I actually had on a suit that day. If I'm not mistaken, I believe I had on a skirt suit, like the top and the skirt.
Was your skirt on or off when he had sexual relations with you?
It was on.
It was on. Was he clothed or unclothed? Do you recall?
He had, if I'm not mistaken, I think he had gone into the other room and had taken off his pants. And, then, had came out like that.
Did you say anything to him prior to having sexual relations with him?
That night, that day,
That night, that time. What was your demeanor?
man, I was really devastated.
Let me back up a little bit. When you said he took his pants off,
I'm
was he?
sorry, can you? I hope y'all don't get this one.
Anytime you want to take a break, please let me know.
Okay.
Ms. McMichael, when you said he took his pants off, was he in uniform then, that day? You recall?
I can't recall.
You recall whether or not he was armed? Did he have a weapon?
Yeah, he was on.
Okay. Where did he carry his weapon? You recall?
Always in his holster. He always
Holster?
had. Yeah,
Okay. Do you recall whether or not it's a belt holster or a shoulder holster? And shoulder one means where you put the gun down here. Belt, as some police officers wear it around their waist.
I think he had a shoulder holster, the kind of strapped over his shoulders. I think he had that.
And when we're talking about that night, or that time,
No,
And-
I'm sorry, I take that back. It wasn't a shoulder holster, I'm sorry. That particular, the very first time he had a belt holster.
had a belt holster. You don't recall whether or not he was in uniform, but you do recall a belt holster?
Yeah. I don't recall if he was in uniform or not. I can't recall it.
Okay. Where was the holster and the gun when you had sexual relations with him?
He had put it down on the couch by the, as you walked into the house, you know, there was the kitchen, and the kitchen was like, you couldn't see, you know, because I was like, oh man, it's so dark, you know. And then when you walked in the house, you know, he had struck a match. I remember he had struck up a match, and then a rabbit ran across, and I was like, you know. And I remember him laying it down on that, there was a little couch over there on the side, and he had put it there.
Now, in a question I asked you earlier, what was your demeanor? What, if anything, did you say to him prior to this act?
I had asked him where we were going while we were in the car, and he never did answer me.
How about there in the room?
I had asked him why he was doing that, and then he kind of like stuck his thumb in my mouth.
Stuck his thumb in your mouth?
Mm-hmm.
Did you try to leave that location before the sexual relations?
I was scared.
You were scared?
I didn't know where I was, first of all, in order to even leave. I didn't even know where I never lived on that side of town before. So I didn't know where I was. So only thing I knew when he made it a requirement that I moved over there on that side, only thing I knew was how to get to and from the jail. You know, in a couple grocery stores and stuff like that. You know, I hadn't known my way around. Like, I mean, Decatur's pretty large. And so I didn't know, like, because usually if I come home from work, then I had a routine. Like, I do my daughter's homework, and, you know, we eat, and then it's supper time, and it's time to go to work again.
Mr. Michael, the neighborhood you were in that evening, had you ever been there before?
I had never been there.
And you were alone with him at that time?
I'm sorry.
You were alone with him in that home?
Yes.
You got there in his vehicle, is that right?
Correct.
After you had sexual relations with him, did he say anything to you while still there at the house?
He was he just basically was, his whole demeanor was like, you know, the other people had campaigned for
Look
him.
at that snarl on his face.
And that he was basically saying, I don't want to quote his exact words, but he was basically saying that nothing was free, and that I didn't know him before then, and I didn't campaign for him, so that it was time to pay the bill. And so that's basically that he let me know that, you know, and that that was what had happened was between me and him.
That what had happened was between the two of you?
Mm-hmm.
Did you leave that location? And if so, how did you?
Okay, so I have to stop right here. Let's get a little bit of commentary, right? So thank you guys for participating in the jury box. So I have to not to make excuses, but I know I can be so skeptical at times, you know. But with this case, I'm also going from what I heard, what the witnesses, who their witnesses were going to be, and what they was coming up there for. Right. So I already know from the defense, from the defense that they're saying that she was willingly having a relationship with this man. So once she hit the stand, I'm looking at, okay, her character, her presence. I'm listening to what she's saying. And so when I'm hearing that she's first a bounty hunter, now a bondswoman, even though I bet she's a new owner of a bonds company, I'm looking at her. I'm looking and I'm judging. I'm looking at her presentation, and maybe I'm being very stereotypical. But even with her being so meek, it read weird to me. Like, I can't imagine her being nothing about her. What gives me bounty hunter, right? Maybe a bonds company owner, but not a bounty hunter. So I'm looking at those type of things right off the bat. Okay, but then I have to tell myself, okay, maybe I'm just stereotyping, and maybe she's nervous. Maybe she's meek as far as her real person is. Maybe she's aware of what she's going to talk about, and so therefore she bashful and kind of ashamed. So for me, I go back and forth trying to be open-minded, right? And I'm listening to it. And I'm so glad Tweety was like, damn, y'all so insensitive, right? She didn't say it like that, but she said, Court is so insensitive. And I was kind of feeling that way myself because I'm already so skeptical, right? And that's what I am. I'm just being that way. I kept thinking to myself, I don't want to victim shame, victim bash. And mind you, Tweety also said that this is before the Me Too movement. Before people was even coming out talking about sexual harassment and all that. Like now, we in 2025. I'm of a time and age where I was more aware of sexual harassment and things like that. And the women younger than me are even more aware and vocal. But this was in 96 or something when she got this job and when she started doing this. Right? And so there I have to think about the fact that I also need to not base it off of what type of woman I am. Just because I may be boisterous, maybe just because I may speak up for myself, I may say, what you want me to get in your car for? Where we going? For what? Who house is this? What you want me to go up in there for? I may do that, but that don't make every other woman in the room that type of woman who will be that vocal. And quite honestly, I've been in positions where I wouldn't stand up for myself, right? So I got those different things going on. And I'm just going to throw this out there. And this makes so much sense, Kathy. She working hard. She worked so hard and finally getting ahead in life. Then he does that. I bet she was devastated. I think Winter said that's a shame that he used his power in such horrible ways. So I thought about that. I definitely feel, I don't think she's lying, right? I don't think she's lying about him doing this. I believe that he put her in a position and made expectations. And I think all along the way, he was testing the waters. That's what these predators do. They test the waters. Let me see if she come and meet me after, outside the business hours and just come without asking any questions, boom. If she actually go inside this house with these bushes and the weeds like this, boom, I know I can try this. If she actually walk in this house with no electricity and I can light a match and a rat go running by, boom, I got her. She's the type of woman who I'll be able to do whatever I want to her. Right? So I don't think she's lying at all. And I have to also say, even if she did smile, bat her eyes, use her femininity to get the job, to get ahead in line, that don't mean she owe him anything or have to do anything. Right? So I just kind of wanted to give a little commentary on there and let you guys know that I'm definitely seeing the comments. I'm loving it. And I'm sure that situation caught her completely off guard. Plus, he is the sheriff that runs the town, basically. Exactly. And he had the power to shut her business all the way down. Winter says, I personally know female bondswomen and bounty hunters and trust they are not all rough and tough acting and are very successful in accomplishing their goals. Right. And that's why I have to say, am I stereotyping? Plus, you have to remember that he had a corrupt reputation. So she was scared and just wanted to make it home safe. Right. Power and influence. Right. It's sometimes you just go with it. You don't know how to stop it. And then what happens if you do try to stop it? Right? So I definitely want to say I definitely see everybody. Thanks for the participation. It's real great. And sometimes I have to check myself for my insensitive, insensitivity. Like, thank y'all for joining. Let's continue.
He found a rag and
A what, please?
a wash rag,
A wash rag.
and he wiped off, and I took the rag and then he we left. Then I wiped, and then we left.
Where did you go after that?
He dropped me off at the, I believe it was either the Waffle King, or I don't believe it was in front of my office. I think it was like the Waffle King or someplace like that.
How did you get to the chicken place?
I drove.
How did you get from the Waffle King back to the chicken place?
When it all happened to me, when I got back to my car, he had taken me back to my car. I was so devastated that my friend, the guy that I started the bonding company with, because he had been my friend forever, and then he was like, "What's wrong, Charlotte?" And I was like, "Man, he was like, we're going to go tell somebody,
Back up, Mr. Michael. Where did the sheriff drop you off?
I think he had taken me either back to my car or to the Waffle King. I'm not really for sure.
Okay. After getting back in your vehicle, did you meet up with your friend?
Mm-hmm.
Did you tell him what happened?
I told him what happened.
And what did you do after that?
Then my friend, I was crying and stuff, and then my friend was telling me that he was going to go and tell on him. He was going to go tell somebody, and he had told me to keep my panties, and I told him I had took the washcloth, and we was going to tell somebody. And then I told him that if we told, then the sheriff had already told me, like if I had told anybody, like nobody was going to believe me. And, he had already told me not to tell. So I told him that we couldn't tell nobody because he was the sheriff, and I ain't really know exactly, what would happen if I told. So I went home after meeting with my friend and showered and just was devastated.
Mr. Michael, what did you do with the panties and the rag, please, ma'am?
I kept them for years in my safe,
And where was your safe located?
in my house.
Did you subsequently turn those panties and rag over to a GBI agent?
I did.
And who was that?
Fred Mays.
Like from 1997 until you
Year
recall,
2000, I kept them panties.
in your safe, in your home.
Mm-hmm. Because my friend told me to keep them in case anybody, because usually if like when a woman is telling and say something happened to her, then people don't believe it. So my friend was like, save it so the people know that you're telling the truth.
Is that why you saved the panties?
Yep.
Again, why though did you not tell anyone other than your friend at that time?
I was just scared because he was the sheriff. I didn't expect him to do or behave that way. And my friend did go to tell. He did. As a matter of fact, he did. I believe he did go to the DA's office. And then mainly because I had took a loan for all that money. And then I was the only first Black bonding company, the only female, and then I support my entire family. And that was my son's first year into Morehouse, because my son he knew that too. My son had got admitted into college, and I wanted him to finish college. So he knew that. He knew that my whole family worked for me. So he knew how bad I wanted that, and how bad I was proud of my bonding company. So he knew all that.
All right, let's take a break. Ladies and gentlemen, why don't you go back to the jury assembly room for about 10 minutes?
I absolutely believe all that. All of it. Oh, yeah, let's talk about the way he snarled at her.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Morgan, if you'll proceed.
Thank
The
you.
way he looked at her like it looks could kill, she been a goner.
Ms. McMichael, let's go back over when you were
You'll probably
at
see
the
it again,
residence
OG.
that night, okay? Make sure we understand. You said you were wearing, to the best of your recollection, a skirt. Okay.
Yeah, he
And
might
your
have been
skirt
a
was on the
DNA
entire
test.
time.
Correct.
And you had sexual intercourse standing up.
Correct.
How did that happen with your clothes on?
Cross-examination.
The sheriff had actually, like, I was standing up, and when he first was, just trying to kiss all over me, and I think he had, like, I had my shirt, like, he kind of, like, popped my shirt to, like, rub my boobs, and then was, just trying to kiss me down my neck and stuff, and I believe he had, like, turned me around up against the wall.
Was your face up against the wall?
Yeah, I think we were, like, up against the wall, and because I remember him, like, putting his thumb, like, in my mouth, and I was crying when he
Ma'am, I need you to speak up, please. We can't hear you. All right? Thank you, ma'am.
and I was actually crying when he was doing it to me, but I don't think that he knew. But I was standing up
Sorry, did he penetrate you from the back or from the front?
from the back.
Was your skirt up? Was it off? How was it?
He had lifted it up.
Where were your panties?
They were still on. I had on thongs.
You had on thongs. And they were still on?
He had moved them to the side.
Move them to the side.
Correct.
May I approach the witness, please?
Sir.
I forgot, somebody also mentioned that this is one of the reasons why women don't come forward, because of this scrutiny.
Sure, what's previously been
Criticism.
marked as State's Exhibit 56. Without telling us what that is, do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, I do.
Is that a true and accurate depiction of what it represents?
Yes, this is the house that I went to.
Gonna move for admission of state's exhibit number 56 of this thing. Okay.
All right, States 56 is admitted without objection.
But it didn't look that good then.
Didn't look that big.
No, it didn't look that good, like the weeds were high.
Oh, they got a picture of the
That
house.
probably is a current picture
I
of
didn't see that
somebody
earlier.
probably lives in there now.
Did you subsequently, with one of my investigators, go back to that location?
Correct.
And is that the location that you went to on that first evening?
That's it.
Ms. McMichael, after that incident, did you again have sexual relationships with defendant Dorsey?
Yes.
How did that come about?
He would call me on the phone and say whatever, whenever he felt like it.
Speak up, please.
He would call me on the phone.
And where would you be?
I'd be at a variety of places, whether I'd be at home, in my office, wherever he would let me know.
Let's go to the first time after the incident in the house, okay? Do you recall how that came about? What he said to you, how you arranged a meeting place, how that all worked out, please?
The second time that he called me on the phone, and I believe I don't know for sure if I was at the office or not, but he wanted to go to the hotel, so we went, I believe it was either the Marriott or the Fairfield Inn, one of the two. I believe it was the Marriott the second time.
What did he say to you to let you know that you needed to go to a hotel?
I can't recall his exact words, but he would say something like, I need you to meet me at such and such, or I'm and you know what it is, or something like, I believe the second time he was like, well, I saw you and you looked really nice. He had gave me a compliment. He was like, you look really nice. I want to see you. I want you to meet me at the hotel. Or that he was, gonna pick me up from wherever I was. And I believe my friend followed me to that one too. Well, we're talking about in 1997, so I don't know my exact wordings, but I can tell you the incidents. So my friend followed me to the hotel, the Marriott, and we sat there. We went inside the Marriott, and I don't know what he ordered to drink.
Was your friend in the hotel with you?
No, he had only just followed us there. And then people started saying stuff to him like, there's the sheriff, because he was the first black sheriff. And then, and so a lot of people was like, saying like, hello, to him. And so then he moved us over to another table in the far back. And then he had said, I want you to go up and get the room. And then
How did you know what hotel to go to?
He told me. He told me where to go, how to get there. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe he picked me up on the second incident. I'm really not for sure. But And I think my friend was following us because every time that he would call me, I would just get so like, you know, and my friend, he would just catch on, and then he would follow me.
Ms. McMichael, when you're at the hotel, who got the room? Whose name was the room in?
He made me put it in my name because he said he couldn't get it on in his name.
And who paid for the room?
I did. I didn't have any cash, so I think I had a credit card because I didn't know that, you know, I didn't expect that either. And I told him, I was like, well, I don't have any money. So he was like, well, you have a credit card, just put it on your credit card.
Ms. McMichael, why did you get the room at the hotel, please, ma'am?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Why did you get the room at the hotel?
Because he was like, you go ahead and get the room. And, you know, he had told me to get the room.
And what happened once you got in the room?
Before when he had a couple drinks then, and he was like, before I get there, he was like, I think he was saying like he wanted me to be naked when I got into the room. When he came to the room, you know, like when he come into the room, he wanted me to be naked.
Were you? Do you remember?
I can't recall. I don't think I was.
Did you have sexual intercourse with him in the hotel room?
Mm-hmm.
Ms. McMichael, why, after that first incident, did you willingly go to a hotel room with him?
Because he told me from the first incident, you know, that, you know, he had gotten me the bonding company. He was like, and he was in charge of that whole thing. So, you know, and being that he had said like he had gotten the bonding company. In other words, he was insinuating that he can take it back from me too. I would be no nothing. And he knew that my son was in college. He knew I had just bought the house because that was one of his requirements, that I live in that county. He knew I had the loan, and he also knew that my mother just had one loan, so he knew that I supported my whole family. So he knew that I was kind of like in that situation.
Ms. McMichael, would you have gone to the hotel room if he had not been the sheriff of Dekalb County?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Would you have gone to that hotel room if he were not the
No.
sheriff of Dekalb County?
Not in a million years.
Did you go
A
to,
trillion years.
did you go to, all right, more than one hotel? Did you go to different hotels?
Usually he knew all the places to go to. Like then from Marriott, then he said, they might be watching him, so he would change up. And he said, well, this time we're gonna go to the Fairfield Inn. And so then he would go to the Fairfield Inn.
Before you went to the hotel room on each and every occasion, how did you know to go to the hotel?
He would call me and let me know to go to the hotel room. Usually I would be in my office. Never would see him because there's no way that you can see the sheriff because the sheriff's building is up on the hill and my building is down the hill. So, and then you can't get to the sheriff. So usually he would have a deputy call. He would say, tell somebody to call Miss McMichael. I want to see her today. Next thing you know, the deputy be calling me, Miss McMichael, the sheriff would like to see you now. You have 15 minutes. The sheriff requesting you to be there at 4:30. So I would go to his office and he'd be swinging his chair like this. So then he would say to me, you look nice, or whatever he wanted to say. And then he would say
You
like,
got to move back up to the microphone, please.
this chair won't move. So he would say whatever he wanted to say to me. I mean, he would say like, you look nice today. I want you to meet me at the Fairfield Inn or the Marriott Inn or wherever he wanted me to meet him. And he would give me specific directions on how to meet him. And I mean, if you think about it, if I'm in my office, you gotta go through a lot of chain of command to get to the sheriff. You gotta go, first you gotta get through to the deputies, which is like the lower end of then you gotta go through the captain, lieutenant, and then through the sheriff's thing. Then the sheriff has his own quarters. So it's not like you can just get through there. You can't even, I remember when I first was applying, then I kept saying I would like to, get an appointment. They was like, they won't even tell you that you needed to see somebody else. So every time that he called me, I never called him. He called me and say like, he wanted me to be here, there, and he would tell me where to go and what to do.
Okay. What did he say to you when he called you on the phone? How did he refer to you? How did he refer to himself, please?
He would call me Shirley Mack. I didn't really understand that question.
Okay. But how did he refer to you? When he picked up the phone and called you, how did he refer to you?
He would say, hey, Shirley Mack.
And how did he refer to himself?
He used to say a bunch of stuff. He used to say like this, he used to say like he was the big daddy, the man, over the years, I knew his voice. He'd go, hey, you know who it is.
When you went to the hotels, who checked into the rooms?
I would always get the rooms.
And who paid for the rooms?
I always paid.
That's crazy. That's crazy as hell to me.
Enemy approach.
So she was giving him coochie, paying for the room, and we ain't even finished yet,
So,
okay?
Michael, I'll show you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit number 58 and then number 59. Without saying out loud what those photographs represent, do you recognize those photographs?
Yes.
Okay. Do both these photographs, are they a true and accurate representation of what they depict?
Yes.
I move forward. Additional State's Exhibit 58 and 59.
All right, states 58 and 59 are admitted without objection.
So, Michael, do you recognize that photograph?
Yes.
Can you please tell ladies and the gentlemen of the jury, Your Honor, what that is?
That is the Fairfield Inn.
Is that the hotel where you went to?
Correct.
Is that hotel in Dekalb County?
Yes.
Have you ever been there other than to have sexual relations with defendant Dorsey?
I've never.
If your name is on the record there, have you been there for any other purpose?
I never went there.
Okay. Calling your attention to February 15th of the year 1999. Were you at the Fairfield Inn excuse me one second. 2000, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I got the year straight.
So it started in 97,
Were you
now
at the
he's talking about
Fairfield Inn on
2000.
February 15th and February 16th of the year 2000?
I don't know the exact dates, but yes, whatever is on the credit card.
Okay. Again, were you there for any other purpose?
I never went there for anything.
About March 29th and March 30th of the year 2000.
It was for the sheriff.
Again, if your name is on a credit card or on their register, were you there for any other purpose other than to have sexual relations with defendant Dorsey?
I was only there at his request for whatever he wanted.
Okay. Were you ever there and checked into the room and did not have sexual intercourse?
I don't think so.
Would please look up on the screen and state exhibit number 58. I believe that says a rat. Do you recognize that photograph?
Mm-hmm.
You recall what that was when you checked into the hotel?
I believe it was the Marriott.
The Marriott?
Mm-hmm.
And is that, do you know where that is? Where it's located?
Right, it's off of La Vista Road.
And is that in DeKalb County as well?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever check into the Marriott for Marriott for any other purpose?
No.
About the Holiday Inn in DeKalb County?
Never. I never checked in the hotel.
Okay, I'm sorry. What did you say, please, ma'am?
I never had no need to check in the hotels. I had a house.
Okay, all right. My question is, the Holiday Inn in DeKalb County, did you ever check into that hotel for any other purpose and have sexual relations with defendant Dorsey?
Only when the sheriff called me.
Ms. McMichael, between 1997 and the year 2000, were you living in DeKalb County?
I was
And specifically, what was your address at that time?
819 Constable Court, Stone Mountain, Georgia.
Did you ever have sexual relations with defendant Dorsey in your home?
Several times.
Several times?
Many times.
Many times? Please tell us.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
You can't just nod your head, we need to hear it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Please tell us about that. How did that come about?
He would call on the phone and sometimes my nephew would answer the phone and then sometimes I would answer the phone and then he'd say he was right around the corner from my house. There was this place he used to go to, it was called the Mirage. So he would go, if he was there and he was out late night drinking, then he would just call me on the phone and he would say pop the garage. You know, he was right around the corner.
And what do you mean by pop the garage?
He wanted me to open the garage so he could put his car into my garage.
When you say garage, what kind of establishment is that?
The garage.
I know, I'm talking about the Mirage.
Oh, Mirage is a nightclub.
Okay, and is that close to where you live?
No, it's in Decatur though.
And your residence was in DeKalb County?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael, can you give the jury approximately the number of times you went to different hotel rooms?
Can I give him a number?
You don't have, to the best of your ability. How many different times do you think you went to different hotels?
I don't know. I would say, I don't really know. It was a lot. Whenever, it's like I said, everything was at whatever he wanted to, so I don't know the number.
Okay.
But it was several.
When you went to the hotels, was that at nighttime or during the working hours?
Both.
Was it weekends or weekdays?
Both.
So there'd be times you'd be there in the evening, during the workday, and on weekend. Why sometimes your hotel and other times your residence?
Because I just told him that I wasn't going to keep paying for the hotel. And he would say like he was gonna reimburse me, and I was like, I'm not gonna keep going up there because I didn't have nobody to watch my kids. You know, I was leaving my kids unattended with no dinner, and you know, because a lot of times I told them I had to go home.
Were the times during the workday when your kids were at school?
Mm-hmm. And then, you know, my kids were little then. They were like, I'm 40 now, so we're talking about when I was 35. So my kids weren't 12 and 13. My kids was like 7 and 8. You know, they were a lot younger then.
Ms. McMichael, how long did you stay in the hotel rooms while you were there?
Sometimes I would stay for like hours with them, you know, and then other times I would never less than like maybe 2 hours. Never.
When you were at the Fairfield Inn, the Marriott, or the Holiday Inn, on each occasion were you there, did you have sexual intercourse with Defendant Dorsey?
Yeah.
Ms. McMichael, why did you continue the sexual relationship with Defendant Dorsey?
In fear of my livelihood, because he controls the bonding company. And like I said, he knew that, you know, I supported my entire family, and my son was in his first year at Morehouse. So my son would be the first in the whole generation to ever go to Morehouse. So I really was taking the hit for my entire family to really eat. You know, I was the one.
Ms. McMichael, did you ever have sex at your residence, at the Fairfield Inn, the Marriott, or the Holiday Inn, with Defendant Dorsey, that you were not in fear of your livelihood?
No, I always was in fear of my livelihood. I never would even kiss him. A nightmare, you know, because it was a dream for me, because I was like, wow, you know, my family was proud, you know. So it was like I couldn't let my family down after, you know, supporting them, you know, being able to buy, like, that's just like going up, you know, you take care of your mother, you know, my mom. You know, like I said, she only had one lung. She's still to this day. So I was like, Mom, be able to buy your medicine now, you know, move you down here with me, take care of you, you know, be able to pay for my son's college. And then my nephews worked for me. So my whole family was right there at Speedy Bonding. So it was like, if you wipe that away, then, you know, then my nephew, he had little babies then, you know, so it was like, I would take his life away, then my other little nephew, then my son and my mom. So it was like, if I didn't, you know, because so many nights I had thought about it, and then I was like, you know, I didn't.
Ms. Michael, let me interrupt your question. You got off. Why did you break the engagement?
Because my boyfriend left me because he wanted me to just like leave. He was like, just leave it. You know, he's like, leave it, just let it go.
Did you tell him about what was happening?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael, at your home, were your children or any other relatives ever present when Defendant Dorsey came over?
Yeah. My kids and my nephew was there.
And how old were you? Said your kids then were 5 and 4 when this began?
They were like 7 and 8.
I'm sorry, 7 and 8.
Mm-hmm.
When did your nephew live with you at any particular time?
My nephew lived with me. His mother had deserted him, so my mother had raised him, and So I took him from my mother. So my mom's like 67 now. So my mom's like 62 then. So I took him from my mom, and he lived with me, and he was like 17 then.
And do you remember what year that was?
I think it was like 1999, something like that.
And he was present in the home?
Mm-hmm.
And what's his name, please?
Benjamin Moore.
Did you tell him what was happening?
Yeah.
Okay.
My nephew knew, my son knew. The only person I never told was my mom, because I didn't want my mom. My mom was real old fashioned. She would have been like, we could just be hungry, because she got a lot of pride. So I didn't tell my mom.
So Michael, you said something much earlier on that your friend Major Everett went to the district attorney's office.
Mm-hmm.
You do not know what he said or if he identified you in any way, do you? You were not present at that meeting.
I wasn't present.
Okay. This week, Michael, was there at any time that you rebelled, that you refused to have sex, and if so, what happened?
Yeah, like I had gotten, over the years, I had gotten a lot of rebellion. I just, be like, and blow him off, today, do whatever. Then he would, then they would say like, oh, well, you have like 24 hours to respond to something bogus, like, oh, I came into jail and did just make up stuff, and then if it was supposed to be like that, then I was supposed to actually go through like chain of command, like if I.
Mr. Michael, excuse me for interrupting because you just jumped. Please explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what you're talking about.
Okay. What I'm talking about is like if you own a bail bonding company and you violate, you break the rules, right? Breaking the rules meaning like you solicit in the jail, like you go and stop somebody and be like, can I help you to get a bond? Or, they would give you like the rules when you first open your bonding company. They say, don't do this, 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 and this. Well, then like if I would say like, tell the sheriff like I was busy or something like that. So then the following day I would have a note to say like Speedy Bonding was soliciting and that I needed to report to like the sheriff. Well, if I was really soliciting, then I would have to report to the chain of command. I would have to go to the captain or the lieutenant or the colonel who, I wouldn't just directly report to the sheriff because he's too busy to handle that. So it wouldn't go to him. And that's how it was supposed to happen. But they had me reporting direct. He would say, get her in my office. So, he knew, what he was doing the whole time.
Okay. So if you told the sheriff you were busy, the next day you'll be, quote, written up. Is that the right term?
Yeah, or they would say like that my bonding company was soliciting, and then I would give like a warning.
But instead of going to Captain Goodrow or the chain of command, you had to report directly to the sheriff. What happened when you reported to the sheriff?
When I got in his office, he was saying like, was I? He's real. Sidney's real arrogant, extremely arrogant. I mean, if you say no, it's like he punishes you in a variety of ways. He has the ways that he'll punish you. In his own ways, he's versatile. Like he could be good to you, but then he could punish you at the same time. And when I say that, I mean in how he used to punish me, like he won't really let you know that the punishment is coming from him, like he'll send like other people to say like you did all these things, but you know that the punishment is really coming from him, and that's how he would do. And then he would tell me, it was like, well, I'm sorry that happened. And the good part is he would act like, well, I'm gonna fix it for you. I'll fix it for you. And
Were you ever written up for anything when you had not been rebellious?
no, I've never been. That's the only time.
Okay. Ms. McMichael, was there an occasion or occasions when you gave money to defendant Dorsey?
Mm-hmm.
Please tell Her Honor and the ladies and gentlemen of the jury about the first time.
Okay. Then first it was the sex. Then he started asking me for the money. Like he'd call me on the phone and he'd be like, "Hey, Then he would always say like, let me go backwards. Okay, I was the first, really, I call it boy bonding company, like a dummy bonding company, because all the other people, he had me to train them. They didn't know nothing about bonding. First, it was Jose bonding. Jose didn't know how to write a bond. He knew the bonding process, but he didn't know how to write no bond. And then there was, then there was, I believe, AAA.
Ma'am, can you come back? Please restate the question and answer the question, okay?
The question, Ms. McMichael, was, without
The
going
judge
to
said, ma'am, can you come back?
how did it come about that you, if you did, gave defendant Dorsey any money?
The
very first time.
Okay, the very first time, he called me on the phone. He said, that he needed about 5. And he told me, I believe I gave him the $5,000. We're talking about like in 1997 now. I believe the very first time it was at Waffle King or something like that.
Is that Waffle King in Dekalb County?
Right.
Where's that Waffle King located?
It's across the street from the jail.
He called you on the phone. Where were you?
More likely in my office.
And when he said he needed 5, what did you take that to mean? What did you understand that to mean?
That he wanted $5,000.
Why 5,000? Why not $5, 500?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, he would always either remind me that I didn't pay or didn't campaign for his election, or he would say, it was always like I really owed him. It was in debt and never could. It was like, that's why I said it was like a dream but a nightmare. It was like a debt that I could never pay off. You know what I'm saying? That you could never square it up. But in actuality, when I got my bonding company, I thought because I was already paying on the loan that I actually took a loan for it through the bank. I didn't think I was going to have to go back into the sheriff's department and pay again.
But Ms. Michael, how did you know that when the sheriff called and said, I need 5, that it was the denomination of 5,000?
Oh, he would tell me.
Okay. And how did you take the money over? Did you take the money over to the Waffle King? Did somebody else? How did it get there and in what manner?
No, I took it. Every time he's gotten money from me, it's been me. I give it to him.
Okay. And when you took the money over to the Waffle King, what was it in?
Like a brown vanilla, bag, like envelope thing.
Ms. McMichael, one of the things very early on in my examination of you, I forgot for you to explain. How does the bonding business have so much cash?
Because the people pay us cash.
Do you accept checks?
Back then, I didn't accept checks. It was just cash and cash only. Now I accept checks.
Okay, so if someone, for example, had a $50,000 bond, you would be paid in $5,000 cash up front.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you did explain that the sheriff or other persons could see whether or not you'd made any bonds that day.
Yeah, through jail chat.
Were you able, did you have to get the cash from the bank? Did you have that cash on hand in your office, in your wallet? Where did $5,000 come from?
It came from a bond. I think he was actually looking at the jail track and he was saying like, hey, he was saying like, I seen you did a big bond today. You're doing pretty good. I need to hold 5. Or, he would just be able to monitor the bonds through jail track to see what you were writing, what you wrote.
After that first time of $5,000, did you give the sheriff any more money?
Then I gave him $10,000. It was around Christmas time. He came to my house. He was like, campaign flyers had cost him $25,000, and that he couldn't pay for them. It was because it was getting costly to him.
Okay, let's back up, please, ma'am. Was the next time the 10,000, or were there times between them?
Oh, there was a lot of times in between.
Okay, let's skip to the 10,000, okay?
Okay.
All right. Did you ever give the sheriff money at any of the hotels? Was that on more than one occasion, or on one occasion, or do you know how many occasions?
I don't know how many occasions, just on several occasions. He would ask me, he'd be like, give him a couple thousand, give him like 2, 3, whatever.
What's the smallest amount that you ever gave the sheriff?
$2,500.
Okay. Other than the 10,000, what was the largest amount at any one time?
It was the 10.
Okay. Was it always in cash?
Always.
Was there a time you paid in check? Please tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury and Her Honor about that time.
I tried to give him a check one time.
Do you recall? Let me ask you, did you recall how much that was for?
He originally asked me for $3,000, but I couldn't give him the $3,000 because I was really supposed to send. I couldn't give it to him, I remember. So I told him I couldn't give him $3,000, but I'd give him $25 right now. Maybe I'd give him the rest later on. So he said the $25 was fine. And he said he had needed it for his campaign. And I took it up there to give it to him, and he tore it up in his office. And he said, better than bring me a check. And then he came over my house later on that night, and I gave him the money.
Okay. You wrote a check. And what happened to the check, please, ma'am?
He tore it up.
Right. Did you post that check in your register?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I approach you?
Yes.
Sure, what's previously been marked as State's Exhibit number 55. Do you recognize that document?
This is the check. He told me to put my name over his name.
Okay. Is that, you got to speak to the microphone so they can hear.
This is the check. This is not the check, but that's the register for the check.
Okay. Do you keep a register in the normal course of your business?
I do.
And did you post this yourself? When I
Yes.
say post, did you make the writing on it?
Yes.
Okay. Check number 3674.
Correct.
Is that the check that you written that day?
Correct.
And that's the check you tore up?
Correct.
Response? All right, State's 55 is admitted into evidence without objection.
This is my part of the limited friends. The little red dot.
Yes, we are.
3674, is that the check?
Yes, sir. Yes.
And is that, do you put the date on it when you write the check?
Yes.
So that is July 21st of the year 2000?
Correct.
Okay. It appears that your name is on top of that. Is that right?
Correct.
Is there writing underneath there?
Correct.
Whose writing is underneath there?
I wrote donation on here.
Okay, I'm talking right here where it says,
It's his name. It says Sidney Dorsey.
okay, I see Shirley D. McMichael. Is there a name under there?
Right, it's Sidney Dorsey underneath there.
How did the word or name Shirley D. McMichael come to be on there?
He told me to write that over that.
He told you to write it over it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
and that word right there that's been scratched through, what did that word say, please?
It said donation.
Okay, why is that scratched through?
He told me to scratch that through.
Okay. When you wrote the check or wrote into the register, did you have that in his office? Where did that take place?
That took place in his office.
Okay. On that day?
Mm-hmm. On that day.
Yeah. Yeah. Ms. Michael, now that Treasurers has shown me how to operate the machine, that check was originally written in the register to whom?
I'm sorry, would you repeat the question?
The original writing on that line to was to whom?
Sidney Dorsey.
And who told you to write over it?
Correct. He told me to write over it.
Okay. And the word under that writing was originally?
Donation.
Okay. Now, he tore the check up,
Yes.
and did you later give him money?
I later that night gave him the money.
Now, it's cash money.
That's cash money.
Did you give him the full 2,500 or was it the 3,000?
I didn't have the 3,000 to give him. I told him that, so I gave him 2,500.
2,500 in cash.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. McMichael was between December 1st, 1999 and December 31st, 1999. Did you have an occasion to write a large bond? When I say large, $100,000.
Correct.
Do you remember what kind of bond that was?
I believe it was a drug trafficking law.
Okay. And so if the amount that a judge had put on the bond was $100,000, what would be the income to Speedy Bonding Company?
10,000.
Okay, do you recall whether that $10,000 was paid in cash or check or money order?
Actually, it was paid in cash.
It was paid in cash. And what, if anything, happened to that $10,000?
I ended up giving it to the sheriff.
How did that come about, please, ma'am?
Well, it was around Christmas time, and I really was gonna keep the money, for my family for Christmas. And he was saying like he needed it for his the flyers, like the mailings. That's what he called it. I think it was the mailings that they sent them out to everybody. He was telling me like Dekalb County had like thousands of people, and the mailings cost like $25,000 to get sent out to everybody.
Okay. And did you give him the money?
I gave him the money.
Where were you when you gave him the money?
At my house,
Where were you in your house?
in my bedroom.
Do you have a safe in your bedroom?
I do.
And the money was in the safe? Or do you-
Originally, it was in the safe, and then when I knew that he was coming, I took it out of the safe.
Did you tell anyone at that time, at that evening, that you just given the sheriff $10,000?
Yeah, I had told my nephew that, because we was like, we were going to plan to do some stuff for her.
Mr. Michael, you got to speak a little slower and clearer. This big courtroom and our words go everywhere, okay?
Okay. I originally told my nephew that, and my family that we were going to have a real big Christmas. And then I told him that we weren't going to have a real big Christmas because I had to give it to the sheriff for his campaign or whatever he was doing, the flyers.
Ms. McMichael, the $5,000 at the Waffle King, the money in the hotels, the money in your residence, and the $10,000 from your residence, why did you give that money to the sheriff?
For my livelihood, I knew that he could take it away because he was like, he gave it to me. And he was like, I was the only bonding company that was not giving him stuff. He said the other bonding company was giving him and helping him too. I was the only one that did not give him nothing.
And so was it your understanding you had to give something?
Mm-hmm.
What did you believe would happen if you did not give this money to the sheriff?
That I probably wouldn't have had a bonding company.
I'm sorry.
I probably wouldn't have a bonding company.
Ms. McMichael, did you keep a record at all of the amount of money, cash money, that you gave to Defendant Dorsey from February 14th, 1997 to December 31st, 2000?
I didn't.
You know there was at least a $10,000 and a $5,000 of the Waffle King. And there was no money, and
Yes.
there's no money less
Sorry, Your
than
Honor.
$1,000 at any other occasion?
No, never less than 1,000.
Do you even have a guesstimate? And if you don't, that's okay, about how much money over those 4 years that you gave to Defendant Dorsey?
No, I just know I gave him whenever he asked me for whatever it was, I tried to get it and to give it to him.
I just want to make sure that the monies at the hotel, the hotels near North Lake Mall in Dekalb County,
Yes,
wasn't a hotel outside of North Lake or outside of DeKalb, right?
no, it was in Dekalb.
Each and every time you gave him money, was it in DeKalb County?
Each and every time, yes.
Ms. McMichael, at some point, did you tell anyone in authority, when I say authority, law enforcement or the district attorney, what was happening?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Who was the first person you told in authority about what was happening?
I believe it was Fred Mays.
Did you contact Fred Mays or did Mr. Mays contact you?
No, he contacted me.
Okay. Is that the little guy sitting right here?
Correct.
Okay.
Did you say little? Sorry, Mr. Mays, it's late.
He contacted you
He did.
That's the little man.
and did you subsequently have a conversation with him?
Yes.
Do you recall when this was?
He badgered me for a good minute there, but I don't remember the exact month it was.
Okay. Was it in the year 2000?
Yes,
Do you recall whether it was before or after defendant Dorsey's defeat in the polls?
It was after.
Okay. Now, again, did you initiate the conversation with Mr. Mays, or did Mr. Mays contact you?
No, he contacted me.
Did you willingly meet with him?
Yeah, I went there, yes.
Were you represented by attorneys at that time?
I was.
And did you talk with your attorneys before meeting with Mr. Mays?
I did.
Did you tell your attorneys what had been going on during the Dorsey administration?
Yes, I did.
And after meeting with them, did you give an interview with Special Agent Mays?
Yes.
After that interview, did you agree to wear a wire and meet with Defendant Dorsey?
Yes.
Do you recall where that was?
It was at Old Charlie's.
And what is O'Charlie's, please, ma'am?
Old Charlie's is a restaurant.
And where is that located?
It's off of La Vista Road.
And is that in the North Lake area?
Right, North Lake is in Dekalb County.
Had you met Defendant Dorsey at O'Charlie's previously?
Yes, several times.
That was not an uncommon place to meet.
Yeah, that was our meeting place.
Whose idea was it to meet at O'Charlie's? Do you remember?
Can you be more specific? What do you mean?
Yeah. There's a meeting place at O'Charlie's. Did you contact the sheriff, or did the sheriff contact you about a meeting place?
No, I contacted him.
Okay. Whose idea was it, if you remember, to meet at that particular location?
Well, Fred had told me to contact him, to page him, and tell him to meet me there, and that's what I did.
To meet at O'Charlie's?
Mm-hmm.
And when you went in O'Charlie's, was anyone with you?
Yeah, my kids, my two daughters was with me.
And was anyone with Defendant Dorsey?
He brought his son.
Was this a breakfast meeting, lunch meeting, dinner meeting, appetizer meeting? Do you remember?
This was like a dinner meeting, I guess.
It was in the evening.
It was in the evening.
Do you recall whether the restaurant was crowded or sparsely crowded, or did you have to wait, or do you remember?
It was partially crowded.
And did y'all sit at a table, booth, at the bar? Do you remember?
So we sat at a booth.
At some point during that meeting, did the children leave the table?
Yeah, I think Cindy had gave them some money to Boomer and Maria and Marnika to go play some games.
Did all the children get up and leave?
Yeah.
Now, prior to the meeting, did Special Agent Mays give you some ideas about some questions to ask Defendant Dorsey?
Yeah, he had gave me instructions. He had told me to, ask the sheriff about, to bring up certain things about the money, the sex, and to try to get it where it would be clear.
And did you actually bring up anything about the money?
I did.
And what did you say, please?
I asked him, I looked at him and I said, well, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to tell him about the money? And then he looked at me and he gave me that same look that he got now on his face, like, and then he wrote on the letter, he was like, are you wired? And then I just pushed it back. I looked at it and then I kind of just took my hand off of it, and then he took it and then he balled it up and he was like, don't call me no more. Don't talk to me.
When you said wrote on a letter, do you mean like
A napkin, I'm sorry, it wasn't a letter, but like he wrote it on a napkin.
you wrote on a napkin? Are you white? What was your demeanor, your expression, your behavior when you read that napkin?
I don't understand the question. I'm sorry.
Come up with some more adjectives. How did you react when you saw the napkin?
I was afraid.
What were you afraid of, please?
I was afraid that he was going to know that I was wired. You know, I was frightened.
Do you remember what he said to you after he took the napkin back?
Yeah, he told me don't ever call him no more.
Did he say anything before that? Do you remember?
No, he just put on the napkin. He was like, "Are you wired?" And then, he had just had this expression on his face, like, And then I was like, we both was sitting up there. I was like, "Oh my God, he don't know that I'm wired," because he used to be a detective before, so I didn't want to be like I was nervous because I was nervous. I think everything was just. So yeah, he wrote down that was I wired, and I read the letter, and I was nervous, and then he took the napkin and he tore it up.
He tore the napkin up?
Yeah, he kind of like just crumbled, and he was like, "Don't call me anymore."
Like he tore the check up?
Mm-hmm.
Ms. McMichael, before that dinner meeting, but after Defendant Dorsey's defeat in the polls, did you have an occasion to have lunch with Sheriff Dorsey in Atlanta? Please say yes or no.
Yes, I did. I'm sorry. Yes.
How did that lunch meeting come about? Did he invite you to lunch? Was it pre-scheduled, or do you know?
Yeah, he had called me on the phone one day, and I was in the office, and he called me on the phone and told me that I knew that he was upset. He had actually lost a lot of weight and stuff from after the election, and he said he wanted me to go a couple of places with him, and he drove down to this, like it was like a sandwich shop. And I didn't know where we were downtown. He drove to the sandwich shop, and then he was telling me, that he was upset about the election. And then I asked him, I was like, "Well, what you gonna do about, what you gonna do about it?" And then he was like, "Well, in January or something like that, they'll have another kind of election that they'll be able to." Am I answering your question?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Okay. That they'll be able to write in on the ballot. It'll be like a special type of election, and that they'll be able to write his name in on the ballot.
And did you ask him why there's going to be a special election?
He was pretty bitter because he had lost. He had felt like they had wrongfully put him on TV. He was explaining it to me like they had he said they had made up the story on him about the Miss Beasley incident.
Okay, let's go back to my question. Why did he say there's going to be a special election?
I asked him what was he gonna do, and he was just like, I was like, the sheriff had won, and he was like, he gave the expression like, boom, I'm gonna kill him.
I'm going to kill him?
He didn't say it. He just,
What were you talking about? I just don't understand.
he was saying like he was going to be able to run again, and he was going to be sheriff again, and that there were going to be a special election, and that you'll be able to go in, but you had to write his name in on the ballot. And, you know, and that's what he was talking to me about.
Okay, well, how did the finger to the head come about? What were you talking about at that time?
I can't exactly recall the exact words, you know, but I just know that we were just talking. He was talking about a lot of stuff. He was upset that day. He was really, really, really upset. And then he was talking about how they had cheated him, and that he was upset that they had cheated him. And then I said, well, you know, Derwin was, you know, the sheriff, and then he was like, well, Derwin won't be there. Derwin wasn't going to be there. I remember him specifically saying, he said, Derwin will not be there.
And when did he put the finger up to his head?
In the restaurant, when we
Not
said,
when during the conversation?
I don't understand that question.
Okay, you just said Derwin was not going to be there.
Right,
That was his words. When did he put the finger to his temple?
right. When he was saying like Derwin won't be there, like, he was saying Derwin would not make it to the tape office.
Okay. Ms. McMichael, did you at any time express your concerns about the safety for Sheriff-elect Brown prior to his assassination on December 15, 2000?
Can you repeat that?
Did you tell Special Agent Mays at any time prior to Sheriff-elect Brown's assassination about your concerns for Sheriff Brown's safety?
I did. I told my lawyers first.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I did. I told my lawyers first.
You told your lawyers first. And then after that, did you tell Special Agent Mays?
Yeah, I think that he had, yes.
You said think. Did you or did you?
Yes,
And that was prior to December 15th of the year 2000.
right, yes.
Where were you when you first heard Sheriff-elect Brown had been assassinated?
I was in my house, and I was in my bedroom, and I just took my kids, and I just got in the car, just started driving. I had called my son and my nephew, and I told them to meet me, and we were all just gonna not be at our houses at all.
On December 16th, did you move out of your location where you were living at that time?
I did.
Did anyone assist you with that move?
What do you mean? Like,
Was anybody with you? Was Special Agent Mays with you?
oh, yes, he did.
Had you contacted him on December 16th?
Yeah, I actually asked him. I told him, I had ran to him and I had told him that Derwin had gotten killed and that I might be next. And so I asked him, could he put me up? I told him that I was concerned for my well-being and my children. And I asked him that if he could put me in protective custody.
Now, again, you told Special Agent Mays about your concern about Sheriff-elect Brown's safety before any of this happened.
Go ahead.
Ms. Michael, I'm sorry, there are a couple of things that I need to go back over, okay?
When the state finish direct questioning, that's when we're gonna end, you guys.
Someone skips by.
Okay, so we're gonna end the test once the state end his questioning. No further questions from the state. That's when we'll conclude for tonight. If you're enjoying this content, this commentary, and all the atmospheric of the court, please don't feel shy about Cash App and Demetri Lit all day, or a super chat, or a super sticker, or even making sure you're subscribed if you're a new subscriber, and hitting the notification bell. let's get back. I appreciate you all. Let's get back to this testimony. Once the state concludes, we will convene for the evening.
And that bond has been made by a bonding company, such as Speedy Bonding Company. Who is responsible for bringing that bond skipper back to court?
The bonding company.
The bonding company.
Correct.
That's why you have bounty hunters.
Correct.
Were there times when the DeKalb County Fugitive Squad actually went out and found your bail skippers?
Yes.
Right? And you just explained to us that it's the bonding company's typical responsibility. Is that right?
It is, and it's the full liability of that lies upon the bonding company. You got to bring your own people in. Fugitive don't catch your people.
How is it that you had the DeKalb County Fugitive Squad from the Sheriff's Department go out and get your bail skippers?
Because Sydney would, he would help me. He would, if he took if he got the money from the bond, then, he would help me catch the people. He would have fugitive to go out and get the people.
All right.
So,
If that person was not found by the fugitive or your own bounty hunters.
Whoop, whoop. Thank you for becoming an official Lit Lane juror, Miss F219. Thank you. And, well, I ain't going to tell you welcome, girl. You are already a flagship juror. Thank you.
Again, who has to pay the money to the county?
the bonding company.
So if Defendant Dorsey had actually gotten money from that bond, and that person skipped, didn't show up in court,
Then he would catch him.
he, being Mr. Dorsey himself,
No, fugitive.
the fugitive squad. I have just 1 second.
Certainly. Gentlemen, also after you finish, if you could approach, please.
Ms. McMichael, did you ever write large bonds that you were not comfortable with, that you didn't feel like you could hold the collateral to if they skipped?
Yes,
Okay. And why did you do that, please, ma'am?
because, I knew the sheriff would, catch the people
Why did you know the sheriff would catch the people when it's your responsibility?
because he told me that he would catch them, not to worry about it.
Ms. McMichael, did you ever have sexual relationships with the defendant or give him money if he was not the sheriff of DeKalb County, Georgia?
No, never.
And did you do this to keep your business?
Correct, yes.
No further questions.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're at a good point to stop for the day, so that's what we're going to do. I will remind
Okay,
you
perfect.
again, not to talk with anyone about this case.
Perfect timing. I thought I was going to be, okay. I thought I had timed that all right. So, you guys, this was a great night of testimony, right? First witness. And mind you, this witness shows, I thought, like, okay, it was a lot of different witnesses before, the people that was doing the driving for him and all that type of stuff. I was like, okay, this is the best of. Let's skip to the meat and potatoes, her testimony, because there's 3 parts to it. It don't get no more better example. You don't get a better example of his exploitation and corruptness, right? So, thank you guys for joining me. I'm gonna go ahead and end it. This has been a long day. Welcome and thank you, Tweety, for becoming an official Lit Lane Jury Box member. That's our chat family. If you're new around here, thank y'all so much. And guess what? I will be looking for y'all tomorrow. Tomorrow we will be convening during the day court. We will be doing live reactions. Jenny Mall and Jeezy, they police body cam footage tomorrow at 10, between 10 and 11 Central tomorrow Standard Time. And we'll be meeting right back here in night court at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Until we meet again, y'all be blessed. Court is officially dismissed. Good night.
Thanks for watching. Do not forget click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Like, comment and share. See you next time.